Guys, avem 2 videoclipuri la care vreți să ne uităm. La ăsta ne uităm, punct, că așa zic eu. Știi ce? Știi ce? Eu decid! S-ar putea să facem cu inima, cel mai probabil, dar vedem. Sper că nu, dar probabil că facem. S-a dictat The 7 Levels. Ia că vă pun pe ecran. Cele 7 nivele ale filmelor horror. Sună interesant clipul. Așa sper să fie. Să vedem cât putem duce. Ia să vedem.
Levels of horror films explained.
Level 1. Trash.
These movies are so
Trash! Și ziceți, guys, Silent Hill la trash? What? Nu m-am uitat la Silent Hill, dar trebuie să mă uit.
sorry, they don't even class as a fun to watch type of bad. That's reserved for the next level. If you picked up a camera and recorded yourself talking to girls in a club, it would make a better horror movie than all the crap I had to watch on this list. These are the sort of movies that are on YouTube for free. And if you know YouTube, you know they're ruthless with copyright, so imagine how much your movie sucks that a copyright enforcer pulls up and thinks it's too ass to even do anything about it. They really said, "Fuck my commission, you think I'm gonna sit here for 2 hours to check if this guy posted the full movie of Smiley?" These movies fail in every possible form of movie production, let alone horror movie production. The atmosphere and dread is non-existent. The sound design was led by the National Hearing Loss Society. The camera work was done by Stevie Wonder. Nothing is scary unless the director uses sudden loud sounds with a cheap jump scare. Movies like Megan is Missing.
Bă, dar am auzit că de Megan is Missing. Am înțeles că e un film destul de bun, nu? Sau greșesc?
Smiley, Tarot, and Return to Silent
Bă, Tarot s-o băgat pe Netflix parcă sau unde s-o băgat?
Hill are the level 1 ambassadors. I'll throw in Vampire Land as well, which I wasn't going to as it's a low budget film, but so was Blair Witch, Saw 1 and Paranormal Activity 1, so I'm not going to let it slide. Budget is no longer an excuse to produce garbage. Also, do you know how hard it is to make Silent Hill not scary? Those games are dripping with dread. The mere mention of Silent Hill sends shivers down my spine, but after watching that movie, the only thing I'm feeling in my spine is chronic back pain because I fell asleep on my desk with crooked posture. Bad CGI, bad pacing, the story is a mess and the acting is either extremely exaggerated or static. Another trash horror is Megan is Missing.
Nu m-am uitat la niciunul dintre astea, vă zic sincer, dar cred că mi-ar plăcea la Silent Hill. Chiar dacă ar fi rău, tot mi-ar plăcea.
You only know this movie because of the barrel scene, which went
Uitați de
viral,
like!
but let me tell you, the rest of this movie is an hour of garbage setup. Yes, the barrel scene was disturbing, but that's it. There was no contribution to a coherent, well-produced movie. The film wallows in exploitation under the guise of awareness, using genuinely upsetting imagery as a substitute for actual filmmaking. To round up this list, we also have Smiley and Tarot. Smiley had a goofy concept to begin with. An internet urban legend slasher that kills if the phrase "I did it for the lulz" is typed 3 times to a chat
Ce-mi plac creepypasta urcă pe internet, nu știu de ce.
partner on Omegle. Can you get any more early 2010s than that? Oh yes you can. Shane Dawson.
Oh my god! Disgusting! Stop.
Anyway, level 1 movies take 90 minutes of your life with nothing in return, and unlike the next level, there is no redemption here, just pain. These movies were an absolute waste of time to watch, but do you know what wasn't a waste of time?
Level 2. Bad.
Nu știu pe nimeni de aici.
By far my favorite level on this list.
Is this a killer llama, guys?
Are you really going to sit there and tell me Silence of the Lambs is better than cocaine crabs from outer space? Level 2 is where movies are objectively terrible but achieve fun bad status. Unlike level 1, you will not regret
Ăla e un scaun care te omoară sau ce, un fotoliu?
Especially with a group of friends, not that I have any, but you get the point. The crown jewel on this list is Rubber, a 2010 film about a tire. Yes, you heard me right. A literal car tire called Robert comes to life and develops telekinetic powers and starts recommending.
Nu știu dacă e film adevărat ăla sau un film făcut pe YouTube, ăla cu un troglodit care vine cu o lingură și îi dă cuiva, îl bate cu lingura în continuu și oriunde ar fugi, ăla vine la un moment dat după el și îl bate cu lingura.
People to fine dining restaurants.
Așa mi se pare că e ăsta cu roata în puii mei.
Just kidding, he absolutely slaughters everything and everyone in his path. Think
What? Da, e un film sau un film pe YouTube în care vine unul cu lingura, o lingură de aia de metal normală și dă în continuu așa, într-un tip. Și oriunde vrea să fugă, vine în continuu și dă cu lingura. Și crezi că nu-i mare scofală, dar gen, la cu lingura, mă aduc aminte, pardon, dar gen, să-ți dea cineva cu lingura de metal în continuu cam în tine, la un moment dat ești tot chilovit, te doare tot corpul, nu mai poți și nu se putea scăpa de el.
Michael Myers, but a more rounded
Doamne.
character. As you listen to this riveting plotline, you must be dying to hear how it ends. Well, no problem, my beautiful viewer. The movie climaxes with Robert reincarnated as a tricycle, leading a sentient army of tires towards Hollywood. Okay, next movie. Killer Sofa. Okay, you may be noticing a pattern, so I'll skip my explanation of...
Dar cine face filmele astea? Gen, cine își ia din timp și bani să facă genul acesta de filme și cu ce scop și unde, cum ajung să le publici? Mă gândesc eu, bă, dar ce fain ar fi să fiu o actriță. Da, mă, e greu să ajung să fie actor, mă. Bă, ăștia fac genul ăsta de filme în puii mei și lumea vorbește despre ele pe YouTube. Cât de greu poate să și fie, actually? Ții minte când i s-a rupt lingura și a scos o lingură mai mare? Bunica mea face glume despre asta, nu știam că it's a thing. Mi-a zis lui tataia că o să-l mântuie cu o lingură dacă moare prima. Oh my god.
Killer Sofa. I'm sure you're smart enough to put two and two together. Other masterworks include Cocaine Crabs from Outer Space, Velocipasta, and Larmageddon. Larmageddon was such a box office hit that they came out with a sequel,
Da, astea sună mai prost decât Silent Hill, îmi pare rău.
Apocalypse, for all the die-hard fans out there like you and I, clearly. And we cannot leave Level 2 without acknowledging Ebola Rex. What makes Level 2 different from Level 1 is that these films know what they are. They are absurd, but still entertaining nonetheless. But wait,
Sigur că e entertaining.
my beautiful viewers. You're probably wondering how I've managed to watch all of these videos. True location me, connected to public Wi-Fi, got nothing to lose.
Level 3. Mid.
Oh my god, The Grudge, guys. Și asta e wrong turn? Sau he'll have eyes?
The most disappointing level of them all. Films where effort is mastered by a big budget and IP and the product still fails to meet viewer expectations. They are completely unmemorable and usually driven by corporate greed. Movies like Whistle, I Know What You Did Last Summer and Bagman are absolutely mid. We also have sequels of brilliant movies fall into this level, such as Spiral from the Book of Saw, The Grudge 2, The Hills Have Eyes...
The Grudge 2. Ok, pe ce? Unul e mai bun? Nici nu știu.
I love you, bitch.
Mulțumesc, Cosmin, de 25 de luni de abonament. Thank you so much. Apreciez din suflet susținerea.
The Ring 2 and Exorcist, The Believer. Films that
The Ring. Știu The Ring 1, există și The Ring 2, ok.
exist purely because the first one made money, something that Hollywood never passes up like moths to a flame. They repeat the original's imagery without anything of substance. It's like reheating fries the next day in a microwave, all the while James Cameron is using an air fryer to make the sequel to Terminator and Alien. Using Spiral from
Deci de nu mă pun să caut toate filmele lui James Cameron, because he's that good.
The Book of Saw as an example for this level. It had everything
A murit actrița care a jucat-o pe tipa din The Ring, nu știu.
going for it with a sky-high potential.
Nici
The
măcar nu
premise
o
of a
știu.
jigsaw copycat targeting dirty police officers should generate real moral tension. Who do you root for when the victims are predators? But the film never commits to that complexity, reducing its social commentary to background noise while Chris Rock delivers a performance that oscillates between two modes, shouty and slightly less shouty. There's just one long scene after another of Chris Rock tunneling through generic, cynical detective dialogue and exposition, making the film feel like an extraordinarily tired Seven rehash. The rest of the movies on this list have similar issues. The Grudge 2 created an incoherent
Deci ideea în sine că ăștia par atât de creepy, dar când îi vezi în puii mei cu muzică western pe fundal, par atât de... What are you doing, kid?
plotline that suppressed the dread that the first film had. The Hills Have Eyes 2 replaced
The Hills Have Eyes, v-am zis
a
eu.
vulnerable civilian family with soldiers,
Știu și eu ceva.
significantly reducing the fear and grit felt from the first movie. The Ring 2 turned a unique premise into a generic American possession story with bad CGI. Level 3 is unfortunately where a majority of modern horror ends up, completely forgettable.
Level 4. Good.
What is this, chat?
As we move up the levels, I just wanted to clarify the measurement system. My part 1 of 7 levels of horror
What is this, chat? This is so creepy.
movies analyzed them against 100% cinematography and filmmaking benchmark.
Okay.
If you haven't watched that video already, you should check it out after this video.
Să te duci în bucătărie noaptea să vezi aia. Răspunsul meu la orice chestie de genul, iau televizorul, ori dau ție în cap cu el, ori îmi dau mie. Una de două, cineva iese mort aici. Sau viu în cazul ăsta. No, there's no in between.
Anyway, this video, however, I will shift slightly and allocate 40% scary
Cred că ăla de aici așa e un film de la japonez, asiatic,
into my
bam.
consideration because
Care
that's
era în
why we
partea aia
all love
altă,
horror
da.
movies. Back to
În
level
rest-
4, we are out of the disappointment territory. However, these movies live in purgatory, too good to dismiss, not quite good enough to love. A prime
What is this?
example of this is Last Shift, a slow burn gem, which is code for too slow for TikTok doom scrollers but decent for the average movie viewer.
Okay, Last
The film
Shift.
centers on a rookie cop called Jessica who is assigned to hold down a decommissioned police station on its last night of operation. What she doesn't know is that
Păi și de ce trebuie ea? Nu putea un bărbat să stea?
the place is plagued by pagan cult spirits that begin to manipulate her perception of reality.
Uai, deci sună tare rău de tot filmul ăsta. Face movie night. Cine are chef de movie night și ne uităm la ăsta toți împreună. Oh my god, ce bine sună.
These ghosts contort their way across the hallways in disturbing fashion. The film uses the claustrophobic geometry of the police station's corridors, holding
Eu că altfel nu m-aș uita nici eu, de-aia zic. Că mi-ar fi frică! A zis cineva movie night? Just say when! Păi, când ne adunăm toți undeva, că eu la mine în casă singură, never ever, și ai mei sigur nu stau lângă mine. Unele sunt și disgusting, da, disgusting, da, trec peste. Mie așa creepiness-ul mă face așa, Eu mă uit la 2-3 dimineața așa ceva fără probleme. Și eu m-am jucat la horror la viața mea căgălău, dar așa, nu știu, n-ar vrea să stau singură să mă uit.
rooms and fluorescent
Că e și boring să te uiți la filme horror singur. Nu se pare așa. Ai tu singur cu tine.
lit halls
Vreau așa să comentezi, să te sperii cu cineva, să... Mă gândeam că pe Discord, da, să stau eu pe Discord cu căștile pe cap singură în cameră, mă uit la un film și voi să... Da, să fie ca la Insula Iubirii. Noi vrem să ne uităm și toată lumea vorbește. Nu puteam să ne uităm la nimic, să poate așa ceva.
ways to make the space for
Intra cineva, ieșea cineva, zicea bună, stai să salutăm, nu dădea nu știu cine pauză la...
increasingly hostile as the film progresses. The cinematography understands a fundamental rule of horror. Instead of
Tare.
loud noises and quick
Sună
editing,
bine
you
rău
just
de
see
tot.
something sinister crawling behind the actress,
Îmi
using
place.
the background of the frame as a weapon rather than relying on cheap audio stabs to manufacture scares. Where it falls short of level 5 is in its repetition. The film essentially loops the same
Poți folosi Watch Together? Nu vreau. Eu vreau real human... Care-i cuvântul bun? Interaction. Stau cu oamenii lângă mine, să comandăm pizza, niște chipsuri, să bem chestii împreună, să ne uităm împreună la film, fie vibe. care are casa mai mare în septembrie să ne privească la el. De acord.
Same structure of
Să
investigation
bem suculeț cu paiul, să ne speriem împreună. Da.
noise, reveal, then back to investigation and repeat. Also, the protagonist, whose emotional depth is underdeveloped, means that the terror is effective in the moment, but not the kind that sticks with you. Other good horror movies includes the Poughkeepsie tapes, VHS 94, The Sadness, and Possum. Level 4 films are competent and genuinely
Eu
enjoyable
tot vreau să știu ăla de era pe partea asta de ecran din ce film îi arăta atât de creepy.
horror experiences that deliver on their core premise. They scare you, they hold your attention, and they demonstrate real filmmaking craft. But ultimately, they operate within their own formula rather than transcending it. The difference between this level and the next comes down to ambition and
Dar voi vedeți ce creepy nu e deloc? Na, când e o altă melodie, că sonorul, adică sunetele, melodiile fac tot, în rest nu-i creepy, na, un pic așa, dar nu prea te sperie așa de tare. Pune încoace, Doamne, frunele pe fundal în sârdine să nu ne speriem, da.
aftertaste. A level 4 film ends and you think, yeah, that was good, whereas a level 5 film ends and you're still
What is this? This is so, îmi pare rău, this is so creepy. This is
film
the
ends
most
and you
creepiest
think, yeah, that was good,
thing
whereas a
ever.
level
What is this?
5 film ends and you're still thinking about it days later because it did something
Hai și eu!
that unsettled you on a deeper level.
Level 5.
Yeah. Ăsta îl știu. E unul de lua oameni în casa lui, whatever, și treceau prin chestii ca să scape și whatever. Ăsta e Barbarian. Care am înțeles că e foarte bun, dar...
Great.
Where the elements that make a horror movie
Is this great?
Level
Is this great? Că am înțeles că e penal rău de tot.
5. Great.
where the elements that make a horror movie great begin to intertwine with each other, from pacing, rhythm, and thematic depth to the scare factor, these movies start to pull you in emotionally. While they're not masterpieces, nor do they redefine the genre, they still deliver something genuine you can appreciate. These films also begin to reshape the formula and take bold risks, which makes the horror more potent and it lingers in
Da, de Barbarian am auzit că e bun. Nu l-am văzut, dar l-am văzut practic pe tot. Nu m-am stat să mă uit la el, dar am văzut videoclipuri, vorbeau alții de el și am înțeles că ar fi super bun așa, dar nu mi se pare ceva insane de wow. Eu mâncam și mă uitam la stream, o să mă întorc la joc, so you have some time now. Păi jocul nu poți să te joci mai încolo sau ce? Jocul ăla are o oră anume, nu te lasă să te poți juca când vrei tu, trebuie să te joci acum.
your mind after the credits roll. Using Midsummer as an example, it is perhaps the most visually distinct horror film of the
Pe ăsta
past
nu știu.
decade.
Adică, ba, îl știu, dar nu știu exact.
Set almost entirely in broad
Vorbeam cu Alexandra și n-ai scris pe chat-ul meu sau greșesc? E o conversație privată și nu știu eu. Ce n'est pas posible.
Scandinavian daylight, it chooses not to rely on dark or shady lighting, which sets it apart from other horror counterparts. This makes it much more raw and unsettling when paired with the cult-like plot. Florence Pugh gives an incredible performance that carries the film even when the plot becomes deliberately
Da, nu știu
alienating.
ăsta, adică
Another
știu, dar
great
nu
horror
știu.
movie is Nang Nak, a Thai ghost story from 1999 that deserves far more international recognition. The film's key strength is in its atmosphere, as the rural 19th century war-torn Thailand setting is perfectly captured with beautiful cinematography. This illustrates both the serenity of the village and the creeping dread of Nak's presence. The acting performances were top tier and they were able to showcase the tenderness and terror while also conveying the innocence of a man caught between love and reality. Staying on the topic of Asian horror, we also have Audition from
Astea, filmele asiatice,
Takashi
cele mai Scary.
Mike pulls off something almost no horror director attempts. He spends a full hour making you genuinely care about a quiet, romantic drama before dismantling everything you thought you were watching. This first hour is quiet and almost boring by horror standards. Then the third act happens. Asami injects Aoyama directly in the tongue with a paralytic agent that disables every muscle in his body while leaving his nerves completely alert. What follows is one of cinema's most devastating gear shifts as she pushes acupuncture needles into his abdomen and eyes while remaining playful throughout. She also saws off his foot. The impact of the violence beautifully complements the contrast of the first half being romantic and calm. What prevents it from reaching level 6 is that Mike never instills a clear moral imperative, and the only thing certain about his film is its fascination with grotesque violence. Other great horror movies include The Collector,
Așa, The Collector
The
ăsta.
Autopsy of Jane Doe, and The House That Jack Built. All of these movies operate with genuine artistic intention expressed with craft and
Artistic on The Collector. L-am văzut pe tot, dar nu mi se părea atât de artistic. Să vă uitați la filme asiatice de groază cât sunteți fumați. Nu am mai atins clanța de la ușă 3 ore. Nu aș fi fumată nici dacă ar fi ultimul lucru pe viață pe care l-aș face. Ultimul lucru să fie și aș alege. Nu. The Autopsy am văzut, nu mi s-a părut wow. Mi s-a părut destul de banal și boring. Da, țin minte.
vision, and they leave a mark on you that a level 4 film simply doesn't. But the gap between level 5 and 6 comes down to one thing: completeness of vision. Level 5 films have moments of genuine brilliance that are undermined somewhere. This can be anything from an unresolved theme, a segment that drags the others down, or a directorial choice that impresses without fully resonating. And before we move on, it would be a dream if you could subscribe to help this channel reach
Sunt curioasă care să alea pe primele locuri.
20,000 subscribers, and it's completely free.
Chiar sunt
Thank you.
curioasă.
Level 6.
Legii, că nu țin minte niciunul pe ăsta, parcă știu de undeva, dar în rest...
Amazing.
We are in the realm
Amazing!
of art now. As I
Okay.
mentioned earlier,
Oh
this
my
video gives
God.
a lot more weight and credit to the scare factor,
Okay,
which is why
damn.
movies like Hell House LLC and Angst sit comfortably on this level.
Nu le
Hell
știu.
House LLC is one of the scariest found footage films I've ever watched, and it's filmed in a very
Sună interesant Hell House-ul ăsta. Torpilat direct.
genius way. Every decision from camera angle, sound design choice and edit serves a purpose, and the director respects the audience by letting our imagination run wild when there are off-screen movements. Speaking of camera angles, Angst is one of the most batshit crazy, amazing horror movies I've ever watched. Whoever did the camera work needs an Oscar because it beautifully complements the chaotic, visceral nature of this slasher who is a frenzied, disorganized lunatic who has no idea what he's doing. This is done in an astoundingly, technically genius way using sweeping crane shots, lengthy tracking shots, jittery handhelds and extreme close-ups. This film influenced Gaspar Noé directly and significantly, and if you know Gaspar Noé's work, that sentence alone tells you everything you need to know about Angst. Sticking with international horror, Japan delivered Ju-on The Grudge and Thailand gave us Shutter,
The Grudge,
two
okay.
masterclasses in horror. Shutter
Ba, acum uitându-mă arată așa. What are you doing?
built a horror from emotional foundations with one of the most frightening plot twists at the end, and The Grudge delivered a non-linear story that creates a sense of dread that compounds with each scene, and the iconic imagery it produces.
What are you doing, Bess? No, what are you doing? Deci pare atât de cringe, deci nu pare deloc scary. Dai seama, când te uiți la film, pare mult mai scary, dar așa uitându-mă de aici, what are you doing? Zice, dacă îți dau capac direct. Te trimit 3 nivele mai jos. Pac!
A shaped horror aesthetics globally. That croaking death
N-ai pe cine să colinzi? E Crăciunul sau ce se întâmplă?
rattle,
Pleacă,
and the
fată,
near
de aici.
silence
Ridică de picioare și pleacă de aici.
broken by wrong sounds created a film that
Get
doesn't just scare
out.
you in the cinema but quietly stays in your subconscious for days after.
Ia
Other
uite-o.
amazing horror movies
Ce faci acolo? Ce fric ești tu, ok. Nu știam că îți place așa. Nu, că după ce am văzut Scary Movie mai pot lua de gragi, în serios, nu mai țin minte deloc.
include funny
Nimic din
games,
Scary
Incident
Movie.
in a Ghostland, and the original Martyrs. Martyrs was one of the most disturbing films I've ever watched, and I have watched
Am auzit de filmul ăsta, da.
hundreds, if not over 1,000 horror movies. This French horror is relentlessly brutal, deliberately unwatchable at times, and builds towards a conclusion that is genuinely philosophically shocking. The film revolves around a woman who seeks revenge on the people who tortured her as a child. Its ambition is clear, from presenting itself as a revenge thriller, delivers that, then pivots into something so philosophically dark and physically relentless that the film you thought you were watching feels like a deliberate misdirection to lower your defenses. The director intended to make the film's audience feel real pain, and I can confirm firsthand he did a job well done, not through gore for its own sake, but through the unbearable accumulation of suffering. But when we reach the peak of what it really means to produce art in the
Bă,
form
deci cum se uită asta, deci nu pare nimic creepy. Deci nu e nimic creepy. Ce faci? Nici nu pare fantomă. Pare că și-a luat un pic de machiaj ruj roșu și l-a dat pe față și și-a luat pudra lui măsa cu 3 nuanțe mai deschise. Ce faci? Du-te acasă, mă, iar te-au scăpat ăștia. Iară nu mai are maică ta grijă de tine. Pleacă acasă că te spun lui maică ta. Ce cauți aici?
of a horror movie, we get
Level 7. Goat.
the best of the best. These movies changed what was possible. They created reference points that the entire culture still measures against. Possession 1981, the film so psychologically violent it was banned in the UK for 15 years and it still hasn't lost its potency.
Wow.
Mad God, the stop motion nightmare that took Phil Tippett 30 years to make
Nu
and
le
about
știu, nu le
30
știu.
minutes to destroy your sense of reality. Event Horizon, the space horror film so deeply disturbing that Paramount cut 30 minutes of footage they deemed too extreme and still accidentally made one of the most terrifying films ever put on screen. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, the found footage film that made an entire country
Ăsta sună super bine. Îmi plac astea, Haunted Asylums, astea. Vibe.
too scared to visit a real building. And I'm going to put a little crown on top of this one because in my humble opinion, it's the scariest film I have ever watched. To round up this level, I will also include
Vibe.
2 cinematic masterpieces. I know these 2 aren't the most scariest films out there, but I appreciate artistry too much and it would be a crime
Alien! Deci dacă e Alien, dau FF.
for me not to mention them over the 2 videos I've made on horror, so here it is. The Shining and Alien are GOAT horror movies. All of these films are ambitious and
Okay.
cohesive in every single element: script, direction,
Dacă tu spui
cinematography,
bine.
sound design, performance, and theme. They
Ce
operate
să
at
zic?
such a unified and visionary level that you cannot imagine a single frame being different. Let's start with Possession. Ostensibly about a marriage falling apart in Cold War Berlin, it escalates into something that transcends genre. Isabel Adjani's performance in the subway scene is one of the greatest pieces of acting in the history of film and won her the Best Actress award at Cannes. Sam Neill matches her as the husband who slowly disintegrates while his wife is consumed by something he can't name or confront. It works as a divorce film, a Cold War allegory, a supernatural horror, a study of identity fracturing under pressure, and a portrait of grief turned grotesque. You can watch it 5 times and you'll come away with a different film each time. The next film I wanted to touch on is Mad God. Let me be clear, this film doesn't earn the GOAT status because it took one man 30 years to make. It does because the result is something that couldn't exist in any other medium or through any other process. A fully realized vision of hell that feels genuinely ancient and wrong, like you stumbled across a film that you were never meant to watch. There isn't a plot in a conventional sense, or character to anchor you, or a narrative to keep you grounded. It's just an unrelenting descent through a world of industrialized suffering and decay. What elevates this movie is that it could never have been greenlit by a studio and it could
Deci la mine gândul după Videoclipul ăsta e că diseară sau în câteva ore mă uit la Avatar, al treilea film. Și gândul că horror, eu mă uit și văd pentru prima oară unul dintre probabil cele mai bune filme pe care o să le văd vreodată. 100% sunt sigură. Deci abia aștept să-l văd și abia aștept să revăd încă o dată toată seria.
Never have been rushed. It exists purely because one man was so possessed by a vision of darkness that he spent 3 decades constructing it.
3 decades, that's insane. Am văzut cinematice la jocuri mai bune ca filmul Alien. Da. Să zice că e un clasic, dar nici eu nu mă omor după Alien. Îmi pare rău, dar nu mă omor.
By hand, that obsessive
Acum fiecare cu treaba lui.
singularity of purpose is visible in every grotesque handcrafted frame. And finally, let me talk about the scariest film I have ever watched.
I'm excited.
Gonjiam Haunted Asylum is a Korean found footage set in a real abandoned psychiatric hospital outside Seoul. What makes the film exceptional and what lifts it above Hell House LLC, for example, is the layer underneath the scares. The film is about a crew who stages fake scares for their live stream when they visit haunted locations.
Dintr-o dată nu-i mai fake.
When real paranormal activity starts bleeding through, you have no way of knowing which is which.
Exact.
The second half of the film makes you feel alone and isolated.
Păi și stai, cum adică nu știi care-i care? Că te gândești că, bă, poate au făcut altcineva, dar spuneți așa, eu am făcut asta, și la un moment dat o să vă dați seama că, bă, stai un pic, că sunt unele chestii pe care nu le-a făcut nimeni. Na, ce anxietate îmi dau filmele de genul, mie îmi plac, de n-are rost. Astea și slasherele simple. Țai!
The vision.
I could eat them up. Alea cu anumite păpuși și astea nu-mi plac. Din Anabel nu-mi place, nici anumite fantome de posedează alții. Astea nu prea plac. Dar slasherele și filmele astea în locuri abandonate sau clădire și alea îmi plac.
That manifest
Dar dacă o iei în real life basis, la frica pe care o au, nu mai pot gândi ce au făcut gen. Corect, dar cred că ei nu-și dau seama, știi? Gen până să îți dai seama că stai un pic, că astea nu mai sunt făcute de noi, sunt făcute, se întâmplă altceva. Când faci click-ul ăla, îți dai seama că ceva nu e ok și atunci încerci să fugi, I don't know.
Settling using unnatural.
Adică la un moment dat îți face click-ul ăsta în creier.
Posture, movement and noise which lead to some of the most terrifying scares in horror history. That rounds up the goats of horror. Movies that made a
Eu în orice joc horror.
mark on the genre and will forever be immortal. And if you haven't seen the first part of the 7 levels of horror
there's a
movies,
first
check
part.
out this video here. Don't
Okay. Asian horror really do it better than anyone else, for real. Și nu m-am uitat la foarte multe filme asiatice, horror ar trebui. Și în general filme asiatice ar trebui. Depinde de la persoană la persoană. Eu aș fi acasă dacă văd că ușa aia se închide singură. Și să stau, să întreb de sănătate și să fac run for the hills și la revedere. Nu mai stau să văd, păi stai, păi cum, păi hai să vorbim, să vedem, să... Deuces, m-aș telepăca direct acasă. Da. De asta cred că eu aș supraviețui. Dacă nu m-ar închide ăia total, aș supraviețui, cred. Dacă nu m-ar închide fantomele să nu mai pot să fac nimic, eu cred că aș supraviețui. Regula celui din urmă, ultimul îi mâncat hefan. De-aia eu, când mă uitam la Scooby-Doo, eu mereu eram undeva pe la mijloc. Nici în față, că dacă vine o fantomă sau cineva, un killer, nu știu niciodată, îl ia pe ăla din față, dar nici în spate. Că ulti rămân în unul, la mijloc e cel mai bine. Sandwich. Dacă te prinde cineva, nu te prinde pe tine prima, îți dai seama. Numai dacă vine de sus. Dar lasă-o, n-ai de treabă. Că sus e perete, să nu vină de sus. Din față, în spate, stau la mijloc. A sărici de la etajul 3, mai bine picior rupt decât altceva. Amin. Da. Nu, sincer. Așa e. Chiar așa e.